Welcome, boys. Okay, so I've been doing some work by myself on the Crown Vic. We're gonna go into what we've been doing here. So, we have one of the rear O2 sensors removed. These are the ones that test the catalytic converter's efficiency. Now, in the previous videos I mentioned how big of a pain in the ass it was to get out. Stripped it with the actual tool and blah, 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 blah. So, I'm going to let you in on a secret how we've gotten to where we did. Okay, so we tried the O2 sensor remover tool. That was a fail. Don't use that. And then I've sprayed it with a shitload of liquid wrench since then. Okay, and I'm going to need some more of that because we're almost out. That's how much I used. All right, so the O2 sensor was plugged in near the transmission. There was a little loop, kind of high thingy here, and I used some wire cutters and just kind of cut the top off. Now the reason I did that is so I could take this 22mm box wrench with some electrical tape around it for grips, since we had already stripped our O2 sensor. And at that point you can then slide this down here onto the O2 sensor and then try to budge it loose. Well, it was still spinning, not gripping, not doing anything. So I don't recommend using the O2 sensor tool at all. Do not strip these under any circumstances, period. So with these not stripped, here is what I recommend you do in order of operations. Lube the fuck out of these threads with some liquid wrench or W40 or whatever the hell you prefer. All right. Wrap this stuff up in tape. This is the 22mm, by the way. 22 mil, not the 7/8. Wrap it with some electrical tape for some grip. You're going to undo the connection at the rear. Slide this on until you get a good grip. And then you're going to try to pull like hell. And or bash its brains in with a sledgehammer. I got one of those under the car. Got a couple of those. Got my dead blow hammer and my sledge. But that resulted in failure. It was slipping. So I got some vice grips and map gas. So at this point, the gloves come off and we start killing it with fire. Burn the hell out of it for many, many minutes until your little bung that these are threaded into is glowing. Once that shit's red hot, take it off. Try your vice grips to grip it on here. Bash its brains in with a hammer, and I got a pipe somewhere. I don't even know where the hell I put it. Well, I had a pipe for leverage to put on the end of the vice grips. Tried working that. Not going to happen. Still kept slipping. Slipping. So finally, I killed it with some more fire, and then I grabbed this pipe wrench. So I recommend this heavy-duty 10-inch pipe wrench. Now, for those who don't never used one of these before, how they work is, you see how it's this weird-shaped deal? So the top jaw and the bottom jaw with the teeth are parallel. Now, make sure you do this the right way, because depending on which way you rotate this, it bites. So, for example, when I was underneath the car on the passenger side, the right side, if you will, right here where the O2 sensor was. Also, there's some flammable material up in there. I took a one of those things the wife has that she isn't going to be using now, cake pan, and I cut it up and folded it up, and so to act as a heat shield for all that flammable stuff, put that up over there as you're burning it. Now, with the pipe wrench, if you rotate, for example, when we're facing this direction, if you want to loosen something, this upper jaw moves down. See how it kind of moves? It'll tilt towards. So as you are loosening this direction, this thing is biting down into whatever object. And that's how pipe wrenches work. So as I stuck this, there's just enough room to get this small pipe wrench up in there. And then I just pushed as hard as I could. It bit down into the O2 sensor. It did not slip, and then it spun like a 1/16 of an inch. And I was like, holy shit, hooray. So then we went spin, 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 spin. And then I grabbed that 22 mil, our long dude, That dude. And then slip it back over and spun it off the rest of the way. So at least one of those is done. So I think I'm just going to skip all the other steps on that side, and we're just going to screw it for the pipe wrench. So we're going to kill it with fire, and I'm just going to pipe wrench that side off too, because ain't nobody got time for all that. All right, so we got new Ford Motorcraft rear O2 sensors. And let's see. And a little Ford emblem, XR3F90. Doesn't really say the same stuff around here. Blah, 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 blah. I'd have to look into this harder to see if 9044 something B14 something 14. Oh, I don't know. Okay, but they look pretty damn similar to me. And this box actually has the little perforated deals at the bottom, kind of like when you hole punch something. So these are legit Ford Motorcraft. They are not the scammers on the internet selling counterfeit Motorcraft. Okay, so we're going to put those on. Now, the O2 sensors weren't actually bad. What we are doing, actually, is attempting to cheat the emissions system because, according to my engine, I had a code for catalyst system inefficiency below threshold. And we're going to do this guy here in a minute, too. This Taiwan. I guess that's where Dorman products are made. It's Taiwan. All right, well, hopefully this works. Can't work any worse than the other one, because the other one might just only need to be adjusted. All right, so here's what we're going to use. We got these little, here, let me open this up. Okay, so these are these O2 sensor faker outer things. So what this is going to do is thread into the spot where the O2 sensor used to be. And we have a little mini catalytic converter built onto this. And then the O2 sensor is actually going to be sitting in here, up out of the exhaust stream. So it shouldn't be picking up any oxygen. So it's going to trick the computer into thinking, oh yeah, those cats are totally working. And then we're going to pass our emissions test. Now, for those tree-hugging hippies out there that may be like, oh my God, you're polluting, and your car's going to blah, 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 blah. You know what? This car never had an emissions test before in its life due to its geographic location. So if nobody in the government cared before that the car polluted, then nobody should give any fucks now that just because it moved to the city, it pollutes the exact same. All right, screw you guys. Either everyone should get an emissions test or nobody should get one. Screw that. Oh, the car doesn't pollute when it lives in a county that's not St. Louis. Screw you guys. All right. So we're going to glob a shitload of anti-seize onto this dude, thread it in, and then glob a bunch of anti-seize onto this side, thread that into there, plug it back in, and then we'll be good to go. And then we should have efficient catalytic converter at that point. The only other things we need to do today is this dude, this sensor, which is under the transmission also, on the side of it, driver's side. And then we're going to drain some coolant. And then we're going to, I guess we'll be able to road test this thing then. I'm going to wait and do the spark plugs a different day. I just don't have it in me. Plus we're burning daylight. It's already 3-something, 3:02. All right, so we got to hurry up and get what we can get done, and then we'll be back. Okay, I don't know how well you're gonna be able to see up in here, but you can. This doohickey here is our neutral safety switch slash transmission range selector. So car's in neutral right now. Probably have to pull it out so you can see, but there's that round yellowish kind of thing, and there's a black thing, and there's a line, if you can see. See how there's a line just above that big notch on that yellowy thing? That line, when the car is in neutral, is lined up perfectly with the one on the black deal. Okay, and that means the car's in neutral, and that's when everything works properly. Now, this is the old one. It is lined up, yet I still get that code, which means this sensor itself is bad. So we got two, looks like bolts, not nuts, that are holding it on. along with the electrical connector on that side. I think these are going to be two 8mm, so we're going to take these out, hopefully pull that thing off quite easily, unplug it, plug the new sensor in, slide it back over where it goes, line it up, and then we should be golden. So, cut back once we've done that. Okay, so we're going to take our dealio here, our little device, and our Motorcraft 02 sensor. And now this does come with a wee bit of anti-seize on it. However, I am a bigger is better kind of guy myself. More the merrier. So, we will go ahead and not go fucking crazy with it. But I'm thinking more anti-seize is better than not enough anti-seize. So we're going to put just a wee bit more in here. Especially right around that washer. A little bit more around the threads. And then especially with this thing itself. We'll go put a little bit on that mating surface there. And then into the threads, of course. Because I'm going to have to be the one that pulls this thing off next time. And after that freaking shit show, having to use a damn pipe wrench on the one and snapping the pipe wrench in half on the driver's side and having to take it to a shop and pay $75 for them to get the damn thing off somehow. We ain't going through that again in a few years. 10 years, 20 years, however many freaking years it takes. I ain't doing it. So, that said, before you put this into the car, you want to thread this piece onto this guy. And it looks like our anti-seize is doing a pretty decent job. Going where it needs to. Although I got a little bit on the sensor. Take that off. And possibly you also want to get between the washer and this too. So you really want to get anti-seize anywhere where there's going to be anything contacting anything, so you can maybe get it off again one day. Okay, and at this point when we're all together here, I wouldn't even recommend using a wrench, your 22 mil, to even torque it down. I mean, I say hand tight and call it a freaking day. That way one of these days when you need to take it off again, you can either get it from here, or you know, either way, you've got two things to really play with here. But now we want to thread it on here also, our anti-seize, because this is what's going to be going in the exhaust. So anti-seize this, anti-seize the threads on the bung, and that way you can get it off 10 years from now. Okay, and that's what the shop put back in to secure it in place. That takes a 19mm to get this plug out of here. And then we'll be able to plug our O2 sensor into the connector and be golden. And I feel while I'm down here, I should mention, when I put the Dorman sensor in here, is of a slightly different design than the Motorcraft one. You'll need to put two washers on each side, so that way this bolt has something to clamp onto. If you don't, the piece of metal that would normally extend and touch the case of the transmission there, it won't reach it, not on this aftermarket one. So if you're going to use the Dorman one, pro tip, grab yourself a couple of washers on each side. So that way when you put the bolt through, you'll have two washers on each side, and that'll apply the clamping force, because if not, you'll be able to just rotate this thing by hand back and forth. So You don't want to be able to do that. That's your solution. Alright, now let's get this O2 sensor. First, let's get the plug out and we'll put the O2 sensor in. Okay, and we are in. You may be saying to yourself, well, you ain't all the fucking way in. There's a bunch of threads poking out. You know what? It's in enough. And I ain't fixing to be yanking this thing out one day in the future because of bullshit. So, there we go. It's as in as it's going to get. Same thing on the other side. As you can see, we've got about 3 threads poking out. And so, one day in the future, those will easily come out. We got it wired up. And plugged in. And same on this side. The wire going up above that transmission range sensor. And plugged in there. So, until you do that, now one day in the future, you will have options. You can just take it out right here. Or there. You'll get it out one way or the other. But the bottom line is you won't struggle with it like I did. And now that the sensor is pulled out of the stream, it should read no oxygen. Also ditto for the little kajigger there that has its built-in cat, essentially. So that should be reading better, so we shouldn't be tripping cat codes anymore. So that remains to be seen. We'll drive around and find out for sure, but I suspect that we are golden. Okay, and this is now bank 2, sensor 1 and 2 on top of each other. Red sensor 1, black sensor 2. So on this side we have it at idle. As you can see, sensor 1's doing its thing up and down, while sensor 2 is saying much more consistent, saying that there is no oxygen, i.e. if there's no oxygen, that means the system is doing its thing, it's running properly. And so here we go also. When I floored it, not really floored it, but revved it up high and kept it consistent, we can see it's doing everything just faster, up and down, and then sensor 2 is still moving up and down, but not quite as much. That's what you want to see to show that bank, well, no matter which bank, but sensor 1 is showing you, yeah, it's working, we're adjusting the air-fuel mixture, and sensor 2 is showing, yeah, and the cats are working, because it's kind of moving up and down with it, but not as much. And you can check that just by looking at the voltage too, how it's climbing up and down for sensor 1, and staying pretty damn consistent for sensor 2. So bank 2 is the driver's side, bank 1 is the passenger side, but it's running pretty consistent now, so therefore we shouldn't get any catalyst inefficiency codes now, because it appears to be working. If I rev it up and hold it like I'm doing now, you're going to know that it will move up and down more quickly. But still moving up and down the same kind of trace. And then sensor 2 is detecting that the cats are scrubbing the exhaust system. Because what you don't want to see is these two things mirroring each other. You do not want to see sensor 1 and sensor 2 doing the same thing. What you really don't want to see is sensor 1 not doing anything, which means not working at all. And then you also don't want to see sensor 2 mirroring sensor 1, because that means your cats aren't working at all. So there we go. I would consider that a success. So I don't know what else we got going on next for you guys in the saga, but I think you're going to like what we end up doing with this car in the end, what she looks like. So several videos from now, you'll be treated to a real treat. So, all right, that's it on the O2 sensor and transmission. Oh, I should mention the transmission range sensor. So even though I did put the new one in, we'll still get the flashing overdrive light if we put it in park. So here's how I've alleviated that. Since changing the sensor didn't work, I'm guessing we either have a problem with the car's computer, transmission's computer, the wiring between one of those two computers, or the wiring between one of those two computers and the sensor on the transmission, or some combination thereof. So what I figured out is if you start the car in neutral and you shut the car off before you put it in park, that light will never come on. The overdrive light will not flash, and your check engine light will not illuminate. So if you want to avoid that code, do what I did. And what you're going to do is reset everything, right? So clear all your codes out with your machine. Then you're going to start the car in neutral, drive it around until everything's ready, and then bring it to your favorite emissions test place. And make sure they know not to start it in park, or you pull the damn thing in the bay yourself. And don't put it in park with the engine running, or you'll overdrive light you're allowed one. So if the overdrive light starts flashing at all because you put it in park, that code's now pending. It's not going to come on yet, but if you put it in park again while the engine's running, then you're going to have that code. The transmission range sensor goes P0701. So don't do it. Just start it neutral. You can avoid it. And then if you're like me, you don't drive the car enough, you only need to pass the emissions test once, so who cares? Or, you know, if you have to have it inspected every year or biannually, then how you're going to avoid that is just anytime right before you take it for inspection, do the same thing. Start it neutral until that code doesn't come on, everything else is cleared, and then do it again. But that's how I got around it. But that's just a pro tip. For if you change the transmission range sensor and your overdrive light still flashes when it's in park, your code still comes back on. But we were more interested in making sure our check engine light doesn't come on for a cat problem, because we need everything ready before we get it inspected, and we don't want a cat code coming on, because we can avoid transmission code now that we know the pro tip, but you can't really prevent a cat code unless you put that little cheater device on. So, all right. Hopefully that helps. And see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Peace.